Hey everyone, I'm back with an amazing guest today, Jason Conyard, CIO globally at VMware. Jason, how are you?
I'm great. It's good to be with you, Evan.
Good to be with you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to chat about some very pressing topics. Um, I was actually reading the Wall Street Journal this week, and they were talking about the mindset in the CIO office across the country and the globe. And two words they used to characterize that were uncertainty and pressure. So I'm not sure how relaxed you are today. You look well, but maybe introduce yourself to the viewers and your role exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm the Chief Information Officer at VMware, which is an amazing role. I've been with the company 8 years now and worn several different hats in the information technology space, and been CIO now for almost 3 years, not quite, almost 3 years. Interesting that they were the words they picked up on in that Wall Street Journal article. It's a shame that one of them wasn't opportunity, because I think that's actually what the moment also creates.
Indeed, and we're going to talk a lot about that. I really enjoyed one of your recent pieces. You talked about CIOs helping organizations play offense and defense, and I'm not sure which sport analogy we were driving for here, American football or soccer, but whatever it is, I think we get the message. What do you mean by that exactly?
Yeah, I should probably get all my metaphors from Ted Lasso at this point. I think two things, and I think it kind of comes back to that word opportunity, which is that in challenging times, yes, you may need to make difficult choices, but I would argue that I think when things are going well, it's a little too easy to slip into a comfortable mode of just kind of doing everything. And I think one of the things that happens when there's some economic pressure is it makes companies reflect on what their priorities really are. So when you talk about offense and defense, I think the opportunity that we're seeing right now and the need is that companies really need to move quickly. We learned that a lot over the last 3 years, where people couldn't necessarily physically visit a data center, but they could enable and create architectures within cloud services. But also, what then happens is you then are in a defensive position because there's financial pressure and maybe your costs have grown in a way that you didn't anticipate. And worse, maybe you don't have the tooling and the processes in place to enable you to manage that expense. So I think that's the opportunity. The offense is to leverage multi-clouds to create and enable your business to drive forward. And the defense is making sure that you're protecting your financial stakes and managing your assets as a company appropriately.
That's a great point. Another quote in the Wall Street Journal was from you. It said, as in the case for many IT teams, we're not the IT department of yesterday, or was this literally yesterday, or last month, or last year, or a decade ago? Which period of time are you thinking there? How fast are we moving?
Yeah, I think we're moving really fast, but I think with any point in time, you have an opportunity to think about what your role is, not in terms of just what people expect of you, but also what the potential is there. So let's think about it this way. In the past, IT departments were very much seen as kind of a back office function. We were the folks that ran around and made sure our servers worked and databases worked and people's laptops worked, and more recently, of course, their phone and their other mobile devices worked. And that was kind of how we were seen. There's a British show, I think it's the IT Crowd or something, which is
Oh,
very
classic! I love that one. Yeah.
very creates a really plays up a stereotype. But the reality is that most IT professionals have extensive business experience. They may have actually had part of their career serving in other parts of an organization, whether that's in a product organization, in a finance or a HR organization. So they have a very different perspective. They're coming to the table not just with an understanding of what technology does, but more importantly, how technology can be used, how it can be used to amplify and enable businesses in new and exciting ways. So that's what I think. The other thing I'm mindful of is, in the same way that security is very much present in boardroom discussions today, you couldn't have a successful business leader that didn't also understand the role of technology in their company. And I think by partnering with people, like myself and others in the information technology space, we're able to help businesses not only serve their immediate need, but understand how all of these things connect together, and you can create more from the sum of the parts.
Oh, that's well said. And I even saw this number: 60% of CIOs at companies will be measured in their ability to co-create and innovate and create new revenue streams, um, which is a sea change. You talk about collaboration. Wow. Personally, is this one of your MBOs? Is this one of your targets at VMware?
I would say it's actually part of our DNA.
Oh, even better.
Fundamentally, yeah. Fundamentally, if your technology team isn't amplifying your business, isn't helping you to achieve new things, recognize new opportunities, and pursue them with rapid pace, then there's something wrong. And you need to kind of reimagine that relationship. Really think about what the potential there is. That would be an untapped resource if that was the case.
Yeah, well, speaking of untapped resources, I love this quote from you. You really talk about people, and of course, we're techies, so we like tech, and we love our applications. But it is about people, isn't it? Tell us about your philosophy there when it comes to managing very big, disparate, distributed teams.
Yeah. Um, I think what I would say, most importantly. So let's talk about it purely from a business perspective for a second, because I think that most organizations, not all, but most organizations are motivated by making money, and I think in those cases you're really trying to differentiate yourself in the market. You're really trying to create new products and services that have value, that fulfill the needs of your customers. That's what most commercial organizations are doing. But the reality is, for you to compete as a business, you need smart people. You need people that can think differently, that can work well together, that can imagine different outcomes, but not just imagine them, they can make them manifest. They can create those new products and services and such. But if you have the same people, or if you limit your talent pool to within a commutable distance of where you have offices, you are missing out. If you only hire people that look and think and believe the same things, you are missing out. So if you really want to be competitively successful as a company, you need the very best talent. And best talent means people who work well together, who are curious, who are innovative, who are creative, who work well together, who do not mind, in fact, are passionate about going the extra mile. And if you as a leader want to do that, you have to create an environment where people feel welcome and included, and believe that they can open their mouth, they can say the contrarian thing, they can challenge conversations constructively. I want to add, challenge conversations constructively, and really come together to do amazing things. So that's important to me. Now, that's on the commercial side of things. On the very human, personal side of things, I would say that, selfishly, I am the most productive and the most happy when I believe I can be myself. And
Hmm.
I am the most fulfilled when I'm working with people that challenge me to think and grow. So that's the sort of environment that I try and create. And I believe any CIO, and in fact, let's just say any leader in the world that really wants to ultimately be successful for the long term, has to create environments where people come together and can do all of those amazing things and be part of amazing teams.
Wow, so well said. Well, let's dive into some, tactics that you've talked about, some key technology pillars, enablers to play offense and defense, as you call it. One is investing in cloud mobility.
Well,
That's a little bit of a new term of art for me. So set the scene here for investing in cloud mobility.
so I think as cloud technologies have evolved, whether we're talking about Azure or AWS or GCP or any of the other companies that are working in this space, I think that some CIOs will have moved very quickly to recognize the capabilities of the cloud, but they haven't necessarily stopped to think about what the implications are. And that's really important when you're designing architectures. In the same way as I would say to any of my peers, and our respective teams, security has to be part of the thinking process at the very beginning. It has to fundamentally be designed into any solution, any process that you create. Equally, if you're leveraging cloud technologies and cloud service providers, you want to make sure that you have the ability to move between cloud providers. And that's important because you want to leverage all of the capabilities of all of the cloud providers, not just be limited or constrained to one. You also want to make sure that you're not commercially locked into a situation that puts your company at a disadvantage. So fast moving quickly today to use just one cloud provider may fulfill an immediate or medium term need, but it may create a different challenge for you in the future. Maybe when commercial contracts are up for renewal or other considerations or need comes up. And I think having the ability to design things that can move between cloud providers, having the ability to commercially have more freedom between those providers really puts you in the driving seat rather than on the defensive.
Interesting. And speaking of which, all that cloud investment has created, a phenomenon called cloud sprawl. Everything's being re-examined and examined with a fine-tooth comb. Of course, we've seen multiple clouds for quite some time. How do you manage this cloud? I don't know if you call it chaos, but definitely cloud confusion when it comes to multi-cloud.
Yeah, well, I think if you think about it purely on the financial side of things, it's necessary for any technical leaders or any leaders in the company to make sure that they retain visibility to where their business applications and enabling technologies reside. You need to be able to do that because you want to manage the commercials. You need to be able to do that because you have assets that you have to manage, and those assets both on behalf of your company, but in many cases on behalf of your customers and your partners. If you create solutions and somehow you end up with islands of data that don't necessarily have the same levels of protection, security, compliance, etc., you're creating problems for the organization down the road. So I think it's really important to understand where your assets are, how you're using them, when they're actually being utilized, and manage them appropriately. So that's a really important part of your architectural designs and your overall management of those assets.
Yeah, you guys commissioned some amazing research. I was just reading as preparation for this, the multi-cloud maturity index research report that you guys commissioned. One kind of eye-popping statistic, 95% of orgs believe multi-cloud architectures are critical for business success. Describe your approach. I mean, you must have every cloud under the sun within VMware.
Well, we're obviously a bit of an unusual case because it's not just about running our business. It's also about creating amazing solutions and capabilities for our customers. So yes, it is the answer to your question. We run our own internal clouds as well as leveraging all of the cloud providers that you could possibly imagine. I think the biggest challenge for me, though, and I think other leaders in the company, is how you evolve your talent, your people talent, to meet those new capabilities in the future. It's interesting. This is kind of back to the people conversation. So often, I think companies under recognize the importance of evolving their talent to meet new challenges, whether that's multi-cloud and how you leverage cloud technologies, cloud capabilities to meet the needs of your evolving business. Whether it's thinking about artificial intelligence or machine learning or some of the other challenges and opportunities that are kind of becoming much more in the fore recently. So I think I bring it back to people. We could talk a lot about cloud architectures and design and things, but if you are investing in your talent, if you're evolving your people to meet the challenges of the future, you're really creating that runway which will allow your business to take off.
Fantastic advice. The other advice that you talk about in your blog is simplifying your landscape. And why is simple so hard? It seems so simple. I mean, Steve Jobs talked about simplicity his whole career. That was one of his mantras, literally. But what
Yeah.
does that mean from a CIO's perspective?
Well, as with all things, being humans, we many of us like the new and the shiny, and we tend to kind of focus most of our energy there. Oh, this new exciting thing, what can we do with it? What problem can it solve? What opportunity can it create? But I like to make the analogy that a lot of technology estate, and actually, to be honest, not just technology, but also business processes become stale over time, and they're no longer fit for purpose. And if you went around and asked people and said, why does this exist? Who chose this technology? Why is this business process in place? the answer more often than not is going to be nobody knows, and it's always been that way, and therefore we shouldn't touch it. I feel the opposite. I actually think we really need to challenge ourselves to say if something doesn't need to be there, let's remove it and then see what happens. Because I think I like to make the analogy that our tech estate is like the sandbags that weighs down our balloon. And if we cut some of those sandbags, the business will rise. And look, VMware is 25 years old. There are
Mm.
many companies in the valley now that are 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years old. They've accumulated a lot of business process and a lot of technology that is no longer fit for purpose. And I think if we remove it, what do? We remove the amount of licensing we need for something that maybe isn't helping us. We improve the technology landscape, which improves our security vulnerabilities. If you've got a lot of old tech, you've probably got security vulnerabilities that you're having to mitigate for. So by removing them, you also help reduce the security profile. And again, you've got people working on things that actually really aren't adding to the bottom line. So isn't it better to remove the old tech, get rid of it, invest in new things that your team can really, grow their careers and propel your business with.
Oh, so insightful. In our sports analogy here, we're back to both sides of the field, offense and defense. But what do you mean by empowering the team on both sides?
I ultimately think that people can play all positions.
Hmm.
People will have different strengths, of course, and you want to encourage people to play to their strengths, but also recognize that they have untapped potential. So that's something that's really important for me to make sure that our teams continue to grow, to see the unusual opportunities, and also push the business forward.
Good advice, sir. And post COVID, the world is looking rather different than it did a couple of years ago. What has that meant for you and managing the team, managing internal and external customers? I mean, are you reorientating towards this sort of emerging post-COVID world?
Yeah, I've certainly been getting out a lot more, which has been great. And even though I'm an introvert, I've realized that I really love to see people. Still need some downtime, but I really love to see people. So I've been getting around and seeing my team around, around the world and seeing customers and talking to them. But like any opportunity in any moment, it has its challenges, as we said at the beginning of the call. And I think for any CIO, this is a great time to be thinking about the prioritization for your business, thinking about your budgets, thinking about where you can place your bets that will really help your business in the future. So I think that's the opportunity. Getting out, seeing people, getting them excited about the future, and helping them really focus in on the things that are going to propel the business.
Well, very well said. You personally looking forward to any travel or trips or events? What's on your agenda the next few
Well,
weeks?
I just got back from Ireland and Bulgaria,
Oh,
so just a few days ago, and I'm shortly going to be getting on a plane to Japan. So I'm definitely getting out and about, as I said, and talking to customers, which I really enjoy doing too. So there's a lot of exciting things happening at VMware, and our customers always like to hear about how we're solving our own problems and business needs, and I love hearing how they're doing the same.
oh, so good to hear. Well, enjoy your travel onwards and upwards. Thanks everyone for watching, and reach out to Jason on LinkedIn with any questions or feedback. Until then, thanks, Jason. Thanks
Thanks.
everyone for watching.